My parents used my name to bail out my gambling brother, so I made sure they paid. I found out what my parents had done when a letter came in the mail addressed to me. At first, I thought it was some mistake, maybe junk mail. But when I opened it, my chest sank. It was a notice from a collections agency, referencing a loan I had supposedly taken out months ago. The amount was staggering, way more than I had ever seen in my bank account at once. I had never applied for this loan, never signed anything. I called the number, furious, and after a long back and forth with the agent, the truth spilled out. My name had been used as guarantor for my brother's gambling debts. It didn't take long to put the pieces together. My brother had been spiraling for years. Sports betting, poker, underground casinos. He'd burned through every chance anyone gave him. My parents had always covered for him. He was the baby, the one they said just needed a little more time. But this time, they hadn't just covered for him. They had dragged me down with him. I drove to their house that night, the papers still in my hand. When I confronted them, my mom cried instantly, trying to soften it with her usual excuses. We didn't want to burden you. We thought he'd pay it back. We were going to tell you. My dad stayed quiet at first, then finally admitted they'd signed my name to bail my brother out of a dangerous debt. My brother didn't even show up to the conversation. He was out, probably gambling again. I felt heat rising in my chest, but I kept my voice even. You forged my signature. You put me in debt for him. They begged for patience, promised they'd figure it out. I nodded, left the papers on the table, and walked out without another word. For weeks, I played it calm. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. Instead, I started making copies of everything. The loan agreement with my forged signature, the payment demands, even text messages from my mother admitting what they did. I contacted the collections agency, explained the forgery, and got advice from a lawyer friend on how to proceed. Quietly, I built my case. The next step was the hardest part, cutting off contact. I stopped answering my mom's endless voicemails, ignored my dad's texts asking to talk it out, and blocked my brother altogether. I needed space to act without their manipulations clouding my judgment. When the time was right, I filed a police report. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the principle. My parents had committed fraud. The officer I spoke to didn't sugarcoat it. This could ruin their finances, their credit, maybe even risk jail time. I nodded and handed over everything. The fallout was swift. Investigators contacted my parents. Suddenly, they weren't begging me for patience anymore. They were begging me to withdraw the complaint. My father called in a panic, saying the whole family would be destroyed if I didn't let it go. My mom sobbed that I was turning against them. I stayed calm, reminded them that they had turned against me first when they signed my name to cover my brother's mistakes. It dragged on for months. Eventually, the loan company dropped the debt against me after the forgery was proven. My parents, however, weren't so lucky. They were left responsible for the payments themselves. I didn't celebrate, I didn't brag. I just focused on cleaning up my credit and moving forward. The hardest part wasn't the legal mess. It was the silence afterward. Holidays passed without invitations. Family group chats died out. I'd see pictures of gatherings online, my seat empty. My brother kept going as if nothing had happened, leaning on my parents for money they didn't have. The distance hurt at first, but eventually, I realized it was better than living as their scapegoat. Last month, I made the final payment on my car. It was mine, fully, no loans tied to anyone else. I sat behind the wheel, looking at the title in my name, clean and untainted. I thought about how my parents had gambled not just with money, but with trust, and how they had lost. I don't speak to them much now. If they call, it's brief, surface level, never about the past. They paid for what they did, both financially and in the loss of a relationship they once took for granted. My brother's still a mess, still looking for handouts, but that's no longer my burden. The papers are gone, the debt cleared, but the memory remains. I never raised my voice, never had to scream or fight. I just made sure the consequences they tried to dump on me landed squarely back where they belonged, on them.